The millionaire stood completely paralyzed as his ex-wife walked out of the maternity ward, clutching identical twin boys, clones of him. This impossible sight unleashed a flood of intense emotions and secrets from the past that threatened to change his life forever. Hello, viewers. Thank you for being here. Hit that like button and tell us in the comments what you think of the story and what city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Chapter 1. The Project and the Past. The reflection of the setting sun painted the windows of St. Clair's Hospital gold, nestled in the heart of San Francisco. From the 30th floor of his construction site, Marcus Thorne surveyed the city sprawling to the horizon, where the Golden Gate Bridge seemed to bless his latest project. At 42, he had built an empire in construction. But this specific renovation represented something different, a chance to leave a true legacy. Adjusting the navy tie over his impeccably white shirt, he checked the blueprints on his tablet. The numbers were impressive. $200 million invested in the complete modernization of one of the country's most traditional hospitals. Mr. Thorne, his assistant Cynthia interrupted his thoughts. The investors' meeting starts in 15 minutes. Prepare the Q3 presentation. I want to show them how far ahead of schedule we are. The conference room was his personal stage. Gentlemen, he began, his voice deep. What you are about to see is not just a hospital renovation. It's a revolution in private healthcare in the Bay Area. Here was his element. Numbers, projections, strategies. It was simpler than relationships, more predictable than emotions. Since his divorce 5 years ago, Marcus had dedicated himself exclusively to work. And what about the maternity wing? Asked one of the older investors. I read something about a specific reform there. For a brief moment, something flickered in Marcus's composure. The maternity wing. That project was particularly delicate, laden with memories he preferred to keep locked away. The maternity ward will receive special attention, he replied, quickly recovering his composure. It will be a center of excellence with state-of-the-art technology and superior comfort. Later that afternoon, Marcus decided to conduct a personal inspection. It was his ritual, maintaining control over every aspect. The hospital held special meaning for him, though he'd never admit it. It was here, in these very corridors, that his story with Eleanor began. Eleanor, the name still caused a pang in his chest. She was a medical resident when they met. The romance was intense, but the marriage didn't survive the pressure of their careers and successive, failed attempts to have children. Marcus shook his head, pushing the memories away. He had work to do. What he didn't know was that fate had prepared a surprise no amount of meticulous planning could foresee. A surprise awaiting him in the very wing that brought him the most painful memories, the maternity ward. Chapter 2. The Twins and the Frozen Moment. The next morning promised to be like any other. Marcus arrived early in his sharply cut gray suit. Good morning, Mr. Thorne, said Dr. Maria, the hospital administrator. We have some issues with the new pediatric wing that need your attention. We can discuss it over coffee. First, I want to inspect the maternity wing. Construction on the surgical center should have started yesterday. Dr. Maria hesitated. Perhaps it's best left for later. They're running some important procedures this morning. All the more reason to check that the construction noise isn't interfering. He cut in, heading for the elevators. The elevator climbed smoothly to the 5th floor. The doors opened to a corridor, partially isolated by screens separating the construction area from the functioning ward. Marcus stepped past the first barrier. That's when he heard a baby crying, followed by another, in a duet that echoed down the hall. Not uncommon, of course. He was in the maternity ward, but something about that specific sound made his heart skip a beat. Following instinct, Marcus rounded the last screen, and then time stopped. Less than 10 feet away, walking out of the neonatal unit, was Eleanor. Her dark hair, though shorter, framed the same face that populated his deepest memories. But that wasn't what paralyzed him. In her arms, nestled with all the delicacy in the world, were two babies. The world around him dissolved into a dull roar. Marcus felt his legs weaken, but years of self-control kept him upright. The babies stirred in Eleanor's arms, and that's when he saw them clearly for the first time. The initial shock turned into something deeper, more visceral. Those tiny faces were like looking at his own baby photos. The same eyes, the same nose shape, even the way one of them frowned. It was a miniature copy of his own expression. Eleanor saw him too. Their eyes met, and 5 years of distance dissolved in a second. She paled, pressing the babies to her chest in an instinctive protective gesture. "Marcus," she murmured, barely a whisper. He took a step forward, then another. "Eleanor!" His voice was rough, almost unrecognizable. "What? What is this?" One of the babies chose that moment to sigh, turning his face toward Marcus. The movement was like a dagger in his chest. It was impossible to deny the resemblance, impossible to ignore the implications. "I can explain," Eleanor began, but a nurse interrupted. "Dr. Vance, we need you in the emergency room." Eleanor hesitated, looking from the babies to him. "We need to talk," she said finally, her voice firm despite the tension. "But not here, not now." Before he could answer, she was moving away, the babies safe in her arms, leaving behind a storm of unanswered questions. Marcus remained motionless, a single question echoing in his mind. How was this possible? Viewers, if you were Marcus Thorne, seeing the face of your past and the undeniable proof of a secret family, what is the first question you would demand an answer to? Comment below. Truth or denial? Chapter 3. The Frozen Embryos. The meeting with the contractors dragged on like an eternity. Marcus couldn't concentrate. After the meeting, he retreated to his temporary office. "I brought your coffee," Cynthia said, entering with a steaming cup. "And some information you might want to see." "What kind of information?" "About Dr. Eleanor Vance." Cynthia hesitated. "I thought you'd like to know she became head of the pediatric department 2 years ago, and she's also leading the hospital's social project, offering free treatment to underprivileged children." A bitter smile formed on Marcus's lips. Of course Eleanor was involved in social projects. That was one of the things that attracted him, and also one of the reasons for their conflicts. "There's one more thing," Cynthia continued cautiously. "She filed for maternity leave 4 months ago, but returned to work ahead of schedule. 4 months. The babies looked barely older than that. "Cynthia, I need you to—" "I already scheduled a time with Dr. Paul, the hospital director," she interrupted, anticipating his request. "He can see you in half an hour." Dr. Paul's office maintained a traditional atmosphere. "Marcus," he greeted him. "I confess I expected your visit sooner or later." "Then you knew." Marcus's voice was controlled but tense. "You knew about the babies?" "That is a conversation you need to have with Eleanor," the director replied diplomatically. "But yes, I believe you have much to discuss." They were interrupted by Eleanor's voice in the hall. "We cannot simply ignore the community's needs. This hospital has a social commitment." Marcus approached the door and opened it silently. Eleanor was confronting a group of executives. She hadn't changed. She was still fighting for her convictions with the same passion. "Excuse me, gentlemen," Marcus announced, stepping out. "I believe we can find a middle ground here." The look Eleanor gave him was complex. Surprise, distrust, and something else he couldn't decipher. "Marcus," she said, her voice softer. "Can we talk now?" "More than anything," he replied, feeling the weight of those words. "Yes, I think it's more than time." They found a quiet corner in the hospital cafe. "The twins are with my mother now," Eleanor began, nervously drumming her fingers on the table. "Why didn't you tell me, Eleanor?" She took a deep breath. "Do you remember our last IVF attempt?" "How could I forget? 2 months after our separation, the clinic called me. Some embryos had survived and were frozen. They needed a decision. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. And you decided. It wasn't an easy decision. Her eyes welled up. I tried to find you, but you were out of the country, in Dubai, closing that huge project. I sent emails, left messages with your assistant. Marcus, I had a deadline. It was our last chance, Marcus. Our last chance to have the children we always dreamed of. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the revelation. So you went ahead alone. I didn't expect it to work, she admitted. The chances were minimal. When I found out I was pregnant with twins, it was a miracle, but it was also terrifying. I knew I needed to tell you. But how? How do you explain something like that after so long? You could have tried harder, he said, a touch of bitterness in his voice. As you tried harder in our marriage, Eleanor countered, years of hurt surfacing. You shut down, Marcus. You turned our pain into projects and numbers. When was the last time we truly talked before the separation? Gabriel and Lucas, Eleanor said softly, pulling out her phone and showing a photo of the babies. Those are their names. Marcus looked at the screen, an overwhelming emotion washing over him. They're healthy? Perfectly. A genuine smile lit up Eleanor's face. Gabriel is calmer, observant. Lucas is the restless one, can't sit still for a minute, just like you when you're excited about a new project. The comparison made something break inside Marcus. Tears he hadn't known he was holding began to stream down his face. I'm not asking for anything, she said gently. I don't expect you to change your life or take on responsibilities you don't want. But they are your sons, Marcus, and they deserve at least the chance to know their father. I want to, he replied immediately, surprising them both with the certainty in his voice. I want to know them, Eleanor. I want to be part of their lives. Chapter 4. The Reordering of Priorities. Back in his office, Marcus stared at the photo of the twins Eleanor had sent him, Gabriel and Lucas, his sons. Mr. Thorne, Cynthia knocked softly. The construction crew is waiting for your approval for the modifications to the pediatric wing project. Cynthia, I'm going to do something different today. He stood up, putting his phone in his pocket. Tell them I'll need more time to review the changes. And please, cancel my commitments for tomorrow morning. Almost all commitments. Yes, I have an important meeting with 2 people who can't wait. The next morning, Marcus waited in the hospital's inner garden. The sound of children's laughter made his heart race. He saw Eleanor approaching, pushing a double stroller. Hi, she said softly. I hope it's not too early. Marcus's eyes were fixed on the babies. May I? He asked, his voice shaking. May I come closer? He knelt beside the stroller. Hi, little ones, he murmured, his voice softer than he ever thought possible. I am your dad. Lucas immediately reached his little hands toward him, letting out an excited gurgle. Gabriel tilted his head, a small smile forming on his lips. Eleanor took Lucas first. Just support his head. That's right. The weight of the baby in his arms was both terrifying and marvelous. Lucas immediately grabbed his tie, pulling it with surprising strength. The gesture made Marcus laugh, a sound he hadn't heard in a long time. Gabriel settled into his other arm. Marcus felt something warm and wet on his face and realized he was crying. They're perfect, he whispered. They are, Eleanor agreed, her own voice choked. And they deserve to have you in their lives, Marcus. The real you, not just the successful businessman. At that moment, sitting on a garden bench with a baby in each arm, Marcus felt all his priorities shift. The millions in contracts, it all seemed small compared to the miracle he held close. I need to learn everything, he said, looking up at Eleanor. How to feed, change diapers, recognize when they're sleepy or hungry. You'll learn, she smiled. Day by day, like all of us. I think we also need to talk about the hospital, he said after a moment. About finding a balance between modernization and social responsibility. You're serious? Eleanor looked at him with surprise. I've never been more serious. Our sons will grow up seeing this place as part of their lives. I want them to be proud, not just of the structure, but of the purpose. Chapter 5. Corporate Blackmail and Public Truth. The news of the twins spread like wildfire. Gordon Miller, Marcus's biggest construction rival, sent a veiled threat. Interesting how certain coincidences happen, isn't it? The board is questioning the changes you proposed, specifically the expansion of the pediatric wing and the new social treatment center, Cynthia warned. Let them question, Marcus replied firmly. The numbers make sense, Cynthia. The changes I'm proposing aren't just good for the hospital. They're good for everyone. That afternoon, Marcus was at the twins' first pediatric checkup. The pediatrician, Dr. Hayes, commented, "They're very clever, and they have a very strong bond, typical of twins. Dr. Vance has spoken highly of you." As they left, they were ambushed by journalists. Flashes fired. Questions about their relationship and the hospital project flew. "Gordon Miller," Marcus hissed, his jaw tight. "He must have leaked the information to the press. He's trying to suggest my decisions are personal, not professional." "And aren't they?" Eleanor asked softly. "They are both," he admitted, holding Lucas close. "Seeing you work here, understanding the importance of what you do, it changed my perspective. But the changes I proposed make sense, Eleanor. They are sustainable. They are necessary." "I know," she smiled. "That's why I always believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself." Marcus felt his heart leap. Before he could respond, his phone vibrated. An urgent message from the board. "Go," Eleanor said. "We understand. Just don't take too long to come back, okay?" Chapter 6. The Unanimous Vote. The board meeting was silent after Marcus finished his presentation. "Impressive, Thorne," said Albert Stevens, the oldest board member. "But we cannot ignore the rumors. The Wall Street Chronicle published a piece this morning. Corporate empire or family dynasty. The interests behind St. Clair's $1 million renovation. The rumors are true," Marcus said, stunning them all. "My perspective changed after I met my sons. It changed because I finally saw what was always right in front of us. A hospital isn't just an investment. It's a social asset." Across town, Eleanor faced her own emergency meeting. Gordon Miller was giving a live interview, spreading false concern. "It's a delicate situation," he was saying. "We must question to what extent personal interests are compromising a project of public interest." Marcus burst into the room, coat over his shoulder. "Eleanor," he called. "We need to talk now." They took refuge in a small lounge. "Gordon thinks he can destroy us with this," Marcus said, a determined glint in his eyes. "But he made a crucial mistake. He underestimated all of us." Marcus pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "I spent the whole night reviewing every project he's done. Our hybrid hospital model, combining excellence with social responsibility, isn't just viable. It's the future." "But the board just approved the project," he interrupted, his eyes shining. "Unanimously. They finally understood what you always knew, that doing the right thing can also be the smartest business path. Let's go get the twins," he suggested, holding out his hand. "I think they need to know their parents won't give up without a fight." Chapter 7. The Co-Parenting Collective. The St. Clair's auditorium was packed for the press conference. Marcus and Eleanor faced the cameras. "Yes, my perspective changed when I discovered I was a father," Marcus admitted. "It changed because I finally understood that our legacy is not just measured in numbers, but in the impact we have on people's lives." Eleanor presented data proving the new hybrid model was both sustainable and effective. "And about Gordon Miller's accusations?" a journalist asked. Marcus smiled, pulling out a folder. "Documents show a pattern in Mr. Miller's projects. 3 hospitals that started as social institutions and ended as high-luxury private clinics. The real question is, who is trying to profit from the health of the most vulnerable?" At that moment, Mrs. Vance, Eleanor's mother, entered, pushing the stroller with the twins. "These are Gabrielle and Lucas," Eleanor announced, her voice choked with emotion. "They are proof that miracles happen, and they are the reason we fight for a hospital that is more than a business, a place of hope for all families." Marcus and Eleanor each picked up a twin and stood as a complete family before the cameras. Lucas, gurgling, played with Marcus's tie. "Any questions?" Marcus challenged, a genuine smile illuminating his face. The auditorium erupted in laughter and applause. The cameras captured the true story, not a corporate scandal, but a family that found its way back through courage and love. The days that followed brought complete transformation to the hospital. The Thorne-Vance effect, the idea that business efficiency and social responsibility were not mutually exclusive, was becoming a case study. Chapter 8. The Proposal in Santa Teresa. One day, observing the recovery of a young cancer patient, Marcus received a message from Eleanor with a photo of the twins. "Your sons are planning a revolution. I need backup." He found her in his office. "I have an idea to discuss with you. What about bringing the boys to meet the children in pediatrics?" "That would be wonderful." Eleanor's eyes shone. They sat on the small office sofa, sharing the home-cooked lunch Eleanor had brought. "You're an incredible father, Marcus," she said. "Better than I ever imagined." "I had a good teacher," he replied, looking into her eyes. "And excellent motivators." After a full day, the board approved the program's expansion. Marcus turned to Eleanor in front of everyone. "Do you want to have dinner with me tonight? Just the two of us?" The restaurant, high in the hills overlooking Sausalito, was intimate and magical. The waiter brought the wine. "You remembered," Eleanor said, recognizing the label from their first date. "I remember every detail of that night," he admitted. "When we separated, I thought I was doing the right thing by focusing on work," he confessed, his voice serious. "But I discovered that success without purpose is empty." He reached out, touching her fingers. "When I saw you in that hallway with the twins, it was like the universe slapped me, showing me everything I had lost through fear and pride. I was terrified of getting pregnant because I knew it would bring you back into my life," Eleanor admitted. "But seeing you with the boys, seeing how you changed, it made me realize that sometimes the greatest fears lead to the greatest joys." "Then, do you think we can try to build this new version of us?" he asked. "It won't be easy," she warned. "And that's exactly why it will work," he completed. "Because now we understand that the most important things in life don't appear in financial reports or medical charts." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "The final project for the new pediatric wing. I made a slight modification in the design." Eleanor gasped, seeing the dedication plaque. "The Gabriel and Lucas wing, because every miracle deserves a chance. Epilogue. Chosen love. Perfect life." The next morning, Marcus was up early, holding a freshly awakened Gabriel. Eleanor soon joined them. "Today is a big day, son," he murmured. "We are starting a new chapter." The inauguration of the Gabriel and Lucas wing was a celebration of hope. Marcus, with Eleanor and the twins by his side, stood proudly. "This is more than just a renovated hospital," Eleanor spoke into the microphone. "It is a dream realized, a model of how we can unite business efficiency with social commitment." After the applause, Marcus and Eleanor remained in the garden. "Anna Julia went home yesterday, completely cured," Eleanor said. "She wants to be a doctor now, to help other children." "I love you," Marcus whispered, pulling her into his arms. "I love you too." Later, watching the twins sleep, Marcus smiled. He knew his true legacy was much bigger than buildings or contracts. It was the love he shared with his chosen family. He had everything he ever wanted. Not a perfect life, but a real life, full of love, purpose, and second chances. A life that began with the impossible sight of two twin boys, bringing their parents back together forever. Thank you for following this incredible journey. If you loved this story of love, redemption, and a $200 legacy, hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe for more stories. Tell us what you think of Marcus's final legacy in the comments. Chapter 9, The Family Vow. The narrative continues 6 months after the inauguration of the Gabriel and Lucas wing. The Matriarch's Challenge. 6 months after the emotional press conference, Marcus and Eleanor's life was a harmonious blend of corporate commitment and domestic chaos. The maternity wing, now fully operational, was a source of immense pride, and the Thorne-Vance effect was being studied nationwide. One crisp Saturday morning, as Marcus was attempting to assemble a complicated Swedish toy for the twins in the sun-drenched living room, his phone rang. It was his mother, Mrs. Evelyn Thorne, a formidable woman, known for her icy demeanor and high social expectations, a side of the family that had remained largely quiet since the media storm. "Marcus, I need to see you." Her voice was crisp. "It's about propriety," he sighed, handing a startled Lucas a soft block. "Mother, Eleanor and I are engaged. We're getting married next month. That is precisely why I must speak with you. I wish to discuss the wedding." Evelyn arrived at the mansion an hour later, dressed immaculately, surveying the toys scattered around the living room with ill-concealed distaste. "You are a thorn, Marcus. You cannot have a wedding in a hospital garden, and you certainly cannot marry a former resident with a secret past in a private ceremony. The Thorne name requires an appropriate setting, the Huntington Hotel ballroom, and a guest list that includes the governor, not just hospital staff. Mother, this isn't about the Thorne name. This is about our family." Marcus met her gaze calmly. "This is our second chance. It's going to be small, meaningful, and focused entirely on Lucas, Gabriel, and Eleanor." Evelyn's composure finally fractured. "Do you not care about your legacy? Or your first wife? You're making a mockery of the life you lost. This woman, with her miracle twins, is a substitute." The accusation hit Marcus hard, touching the lingering guilt he carried for Isabella, his late daughter. "Stop," he said, his voice quiet and firm. "Eleanor is not a substitute. She is my future, and these boys are my salvation. If you cannot attend a ceremony that honors the real, complex, messy truth of my life, then you don't need to come." Evelyn looked at him, then at the twins, who were happily dismantling the toy he'd spent 30 minutes building. She saw a man she hadn't seen since before Isabella died, a man who was finally, genuinely happy. After a moment of heavy silence, she simply nodded, defeated. "Very well, Marcus. Send me the details for the small ceremony." The final ghost, the wedding, was set for a late afternoon in the small, beautiful Japanese tea garden in Golden Gate Park, a compromise between their simple taste and the beauty of San Francisco. 3 days before the wedding, Marcus was leaving the hospital when a small, timid woman approached him. She was thin, carrying a worn suitcase, and looked utterly out of place in the wealthy hospital district. "Mr. Thorne, I need to see Dr. Vance." "She's busy right now. Can I help you?" "I'm Charlotte. I was the administrative assistant who handled the divorce papers 5 years ago, before Cynthia." Marcus's attention sharpened. "Yes?" Charlotte wrung her hands. "I heard you were marrying Dr. Vance. I did something terrible. I was afraid to speak up when your mother left me instructions to never forward any mail from the fertility clinic to your new business email. She paid me handsomely, sir. She hated that Dr. Vance might get pregnant. She wanted you to focus only on work." Marcus felt a cold rage he hadn't felt since discovering Peter's betrayal. His mother, Helena, Evelyn in the English version, had actively sabotaged his connection to the embryos, attempting to sever his last chance at fatherhood. "Did you tell Eleanor?" "No, I thought it would just cause pain. But with the wedding, the new family, I couldn't live with the guilt." Marcus looked at the woman who had held his fate in her hands. He didn't fire her. He simply asked her to write a signed, detailed confession. He knew he needed to confront his mother one last time, armed with the full truth. The tea garden redemption. On the morning of the wedding, Marcus met his mother, Evelyn, privately in a small tea room near the garden. He handed her the confession, written on heavy parchment. Evelyn read it, her face emotionless, but her hands trembled. "You know I did it for your own good, Marcus. That woman was destroying your focus. She represented the messy past. She represented love, Mother. And you stole the truth from me. You stole 5 years I could have spent watching my sons grow. You robbed Eleanor of the chance to tell me herself. You did not protect my legacy. You tried to suffocate my last chance at happiness." He looked at her, the final bitterness leaving his heart. "I forgive you, Mother. Not for your sake, but for mine. Because I refuse to carry your bitterness into my new life. But you will never again interfere with my wife or my children." Evelyn finally broke, tears running down her face. The first time Marcus had seen her cry since Isabella's funeral. "I was afraid, Marcus, afraid that if you looked forward, you would forget what we lost. We honor what we lost by loving what we have," he said, taking her hand. "Come to the wedding, Mother. Come and witness what a real chosen family looks like." The vows of choice, the ceremony was intimate, simple, and perfect. Lucas and Gabriel, now toddling and holding a ring pillow that was comically oversized, walked down the aisle with Mrs. Vance. As Marcus watched Eleanor approach, radiant in a silk dress, holding hands with her mother, he realized he wasn't just gaining a wife. He was embracing a whole, imperfect, beautiful life. In their vows, they spoke of their journey. Eleanor, looking into his eyes, promised, "I promise to always be honest, even when the truth is terrifying. I promise to be your partner, not just in business and the hospital, but in the glorious, messy chaos of raising our boys. I choose you, Marcus. Every day, I choose you." Marcus, fighting back tears, vowed, "You walked back into my life, holding the proof of my greatest mistake and my greatest miracle. I promise to never take your courage for granted. I promise to be present, to be kind, and to redefine success by the size of the smiles in our home. I vow to use the power I have not for profit, but for purpose, for our family, and for the families we serve at the Gabriel and Lucas wing. I choose you, Eleanor, forever." When they were pronounced husband and wife, the applause was heartfelt. Lucas and Gabriel, sensing the joy, ran up to their parents, demanding to be held. Marcus lifted Lucas in one arm and kissed Eleanor, the true foundation of his empire finally secured. Final epilogue, the full circle. 5 years later, the Gabriel and Lucas wing was a national model for humanitarian healthcare. Marcus and Eleanor often brought their sons to the hospital's therapeutic garden. One afternoon, sitting under the sun, a clean-shaven, healthy Gordon Miller, once Marcus's rival, approached them. He was volunteering at the hospital, part of his community service after the revelations of his corporate fraud. "Marcus, Eleanor," he said, his voice humbled. "The hospital is magnificent, truly magnificent." "Thank you, Gordon," Marcus replied simply. "I still remember that headline." Gordon mused. "Corporate empire or family dynasty. You proved that they are the same thing. You taught me what real legacy is. It's not about the money you acquire, it's about the lives you heal." Marcus looked at Eleanor, then at his sons, who were chasing butterflies. He knew the $200 million renovation was just concrete. The real fortune was the life he had built, chosen, and cherished. Thank you for joining the journey. If this story of love, forgiveness, and the power of family resonated with you, please hit the like button, share this epic conclusion, and subscribe. Tell us your favorite moment of Marcus's redemption in the comments below. Ultimate epilogue, the Garden of Legacy. 5 years after the wedding, Gabriel and Lucas are now 7 years old. The grandchildren's effect. 5 years had passed since Marcus Thorne and Dr. Eleanor Vance renewed their vows. The boys, Gabriel and Lucas, were now energetic, brilliant 7-year-olds. The Thorne-Vance effect had become a Harvard Business School case study on ethical leadership. The biggest transformation, surprisingly, was in Evelyn Thorne. The icy matriarch had fully thawed under the relentless warmth of her 2 grandsons. She still maintained her impeccably high standards, but they were now channeled into hosting lavish, yet intimate, Sunday brunches and tutoring the boys in etiquette, a skill they hilariously applied to their discussions on pediatric surgical procedures. Evelyn often visited the mansion, no longer inspecting it for propriety, but often bringing small, thoughtful gifts. "Marcus," she said one afternoon, watching Lucas meticulously arrange his building blocks, while Gabriel passionately explained the principles of hydraulics to him. "I see myself in Lucas, the strategist, but Gabriel, he is all Eleanor. The empathy, the fire. They are a perfect blend," Marcus smiled, watching his family. He and Eleanor had learned that their differing perspectives, his business acumen, and her clinical idealism, made the foundation and their home stronger. Full circle. The last piece of the past, the old haunting shadow of the past, was finally laid to rest when they decided to sell the massive, emotionally sterile mansion Marcus had inherited. It held too many ghosts of his first, broken marriage, and the grief over Isabella. One weekend, as they toured properties, Eleanor brought up a sensitive subject. "I know we talked about this years ago," she began softly, sitting with him in the sunny kitchen of a potential new home near the coast. "But now that we have the space, and the boys are thriving, would you ever consider trying for another child? Perhaps adoption? Or even another attempt with the remaining embryos?" Marcus took her hands, his heart full. "When I met you, Eleanor, I thought my chance at family was gone forever. Lucas and Gabriel filled a hole I didn't know existed. But the truth is, I realized my family isn't measured by the number of children we have, but by the love we choose to share." He looked into her eyes. "I am complete. You made me whole. My focus is on being the best father to the 2 miracles we already have. And if we want to expand our love, we can focus all our resources on the children at the wing. That is our legacy." Eleanor smiled, a relieved understanding settling between them. "The Thorne-Vance family is officially closed for biological business, then?" "Absolutely," he laughed, pulling her closer. "We have more than enough chaos for a lifetime." A new definition of worth. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Marcus and Eleanor stood on the rooftop garden of the Gabriel and Lucas wing, looking out over the sparkling city. Below them, a new Thorne Family Foundation community center for single mothers and children was under construction, a direct homage to Eleanor's initial struggles and Marcus's redemption. Marcus, now a renowned figure in ethical investment, gave a final reflection to Eleanor. 10 years ago, I measured my worth by the total value of the projects I controlled. Now, he leaned in, his voice deep with emotion, I measure my worth by the value of the quiet minutes I spend with you, the quality of the laugh lines around your eyes, and the sound of my sons calling me Dad. Eleanor placed her hand over his heart. And I measure my worth by the man you became, Marcus. The man who chose purpose over profit and family over fear. As they watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and rose, they knew their true empire wasn't built in concrete and steel, but in the unbreakable, chosen love of their unique family. They had turned grief into grace and a painful past into a glorious future. And that is the true, final legacy of Marcus and Eleanor. A story of profound healing and the power of love. If this epic journey inspired you, please leave a final like, share this powerful ending, and subscribe. We hope you carry the spirit of the Thorne-Vance effect with you. Chapter 11. The Inheritance of the Heart. The narrative continues, focusing on a major family event and Evelyn's final gesture. The grandparents' day surprise. The next significant milestone arrived when Gabriel and Lucas turned 10. The boys were thriving. Lucas, the strategist, already negotiating trading cards, and Gabriel, the compassionate one, volunteering at the hospital's therapy dog program. The St. Clair School hosted a special Grandparents' Day, and Evelyn Thorne, the impeccably dressed matriarch, arrived promptly, along with Mrs. Vance, Eleanor's mother, the loving, supportive figure. During the school assembly, the principal announced a surprise award, the Isabella Thorne Memorial Scholarship for Ethical Leadership. Isabella, Marcus's first daughter, had rarely been mentioned publicly, but her memory remained a deep, tender part of Marcus's heart. Evelyn, invited to the stage, stood beside Marcus. Her voice, usually sharp, was laced with emotion as she addressed the parents and students. "When my daughter Isabella was taken from us," Evelyn began, holding back tears, "I thought all hope for a legacy of kindness was lost. I hardened my heart. I pushed away love. I saw life only as a matter of control and profit." She paused, looking directly at Eleanor and Marcus in the audience. "It took the courage of my daughter-in-law, Eleanor, and the birth of my two grandsons, Gabrielle and Lucas, to teach me that love is the true currency of life." Evelyn then looked at Marcus. "The purpose of this scholarship is to honor Isabella's memory by supporting young people who, like the children in the Gabrielle and Lucas wing, put compassion and ethics before ambition." It was a profound moment of public acknowledgement and healing. Evelyn wasn't just accepting Eleanor and the twins. She was integrating their new life with the memory of the life they had lost, finally making the family whole. The final document. The greatest surprise, however, came later that evening. Evelyn called Marcus and Eleanor to her home. She looked older, but softer. She produced a final, sealed document, one she had been working on for years with her lawyers. It wasn't about the Thorne construction fortune. That was already secure. "I am establishing a foundation, independent of the hospital, focused entirely on the emotional and psychological support of single mothers in high-poverty areas of the city," Evelyn announced. She looked at Eleanor. "You, Eleanor, were a single mother facing eviction. You showed tremendous dignity and strength. I never truly apologized for my cruel actions, my interference, my attempts to buy you out." She choked up. "This foundation is my apology. It will be named the Clara Vance Foundation, in honor of your maiden name, to recognize your strength before you were a thorn, and to help other mothers who are fighting the battle you fought." Evelyn, the woman who once measured worth by assets, had dedicated a significant portion of her personal fortune to a foundation honoring the very woman she had tried to destroy. "I need you both to oversee it," Evelyn stated. "It needs Eleanor's heart and Marcus's strategic mind." Marcus and Eleanor were speechless. It was the ultimate act of humility and redemption. They hugged Evelyn, recognizing that the long, painful journey of forgiveness and family was finally complete. The real foundation. Years later, the Clara Vance Foundation had become a beacon of hope across the nation. Marcus retired from active construction, devoting his time entirely to the two philanthropic foundations, ensuring the Thorne-Vance effect was felt far beyond the hospital walls. Lucas, the strategist, was heading to Stanford, already planning how to make the hospital's financial model even more efficient for the poor. Gabrielle, the empath, was focused on pre-med, wanting to work directly with the children in the wing. One evening, Marcus and Eleanor sat on the porch of their new, smaller, warmer home, watching the sunset. "We built a real legacy, Marcus," Eleanor said, leaning into him. "No," he corrected, kissing her forehead. "We didn't build it. We chose it. We chose to heal, we chose to forgive, and we chose to love the messy, beautiful reality we created. He squeezed her hand. Their lives, once defined by loss and ambition, were now defined by purpose, partnership, and the quiet, extraordinary love of a family that was meant to be. And that is the final chapter of their story, a legacy built on the foundation of the heart. Thank you for following the journey of Marcus and Eleanor. If this story inspires you, please leave a final like and subscribe. Grand finale, the quiet triumph of the heart. The narrative focuses on Marcus, years after all major events, reflecting on his life. The legacy of quiet minutes. It was a quiet Sunday evening, years after the twins had left for university. Marcus Thorne, now in his 60s, stood on the newly expanded porch of his family home in Sausalito. The Pacific air was crisp, and the lights of San Francisco twinkled across the bay. He had just finished a video call with Lucas, the financier, who was already successfully integrating the foundation's model into global healthcare investment. Earlier, he had received a photo from Gabriel, the doctor, showing him holding a newborn at the Gabriel and Lucas wing, a child he helped deliver. Eleanor approached him, handing him a glass of Pinot Noir. Her hair now held silver threads, but her eyes, those beautiful, determined eyes, still held the same fire that had stopped him cold in the hospital corridor all those years ago. "You're thinking about the past again, aren't you?" she asked softly, leaning her head on his shoulder. Marcus smiled, looking at the city lights. "I was just recalling that morning. The shock, the sheer, terrifying impossibility of it all. I was a man who believed in control, and life threw me two identical, perfect storms. And what do you see now, Marcus?" He took a slow sip of wine. "I see that the greatest projects of my life were never the skyscrapers. They were you. They were Lucas and Gabriel. They were the children we helped at the wing." He gently took her hand, noting the subtle lines of wisdom and hard work etched there. "I spent my first 40 years defining success by what I could accumulate. I've spent the last 2 decades defining it by what I could give back, and the quality of the quiet minutes I get to spend right here, with you. You are a great man, Marcus Thorne." "No," he corrected, turning to face her fully, his voice full of profound humility. "I was once a broken man who was given an impossible gift. I am only great because I was finally brave enough to choose that gift." He looked toward the bay, where the fog was slowly rolling in, a reminder that life was still unpredictable, still messy. But now, it was beautiful. "Our legacy," he whispered, pulling her close, "isn't the name on the hospital. It's the sound of the children's laughter. It's the fact that 2 little boys, born against all odds, healed a cold heart and taught an arrogant millionaire that love is the only foundation that never cracks." And there, under the quiet stars of San Francisco, the man who had lost everything and gained the world finally found the perfect peace. Thank you for joining us on this incredible, complete journey of love, redemption, and legacy. If this story has resonated with you, please carry the Thorne Vance effect in your heart.